Now that Butrin is gone and out of earshot, Louisburg shares with the remaining GMB police unit that the Greater Mother is able to be summoned at any time. The reactions in the room are mixed. Some are panicked and gloomy, others excited and enthralled. Paul Kethus is the former, as he demands for Louisburg to explain himself. Matthias Louisburg stands up from the table and looks out the window, beckoning everyone to join him. Despite the fierce storm, they squint and see bodies piling up in the canal. Paul remains seated and looking straight at the wall, refusing to bear witness, as he crushes the pen in his hand enough to crack the glass. Louisburg coyly smiles and slinks over to him, placing a haunting hand over his shoulder. He explains that earlier that morning, he had a rare moment of deep distress after the crackdown meeting fell apart. Louisburg states he almost succumbed to his impulses and punched that wily Harangun who had mocked him. But before losing his composure, the Greater Mother spoke to him and simply commanded that he stop. Confused by suddenly hearing her voice at such a random moment, Louisburg states he went back to his room and drew a bath, hoping to connect with her. And he did. In fact, he and the Greater Mother had become closer than ever before. She even revealed her name to him. Louisburg lowers his lips to Paul's ear and asks in an almost serenading voice if the Greater Mother has revealed her name to him as well. Paul shoved his shoulder out from Louisburg's grasp and simply stated that he didn't care to learn her name, while further annoyedly calling out the fact that it makes no sense for the Greater Mother to give downright psychopathic commandments, but now suddenly have a concerned heart for some random bunny boy. Louisburg continues lording over Paul, like a parent calculating how to trick a child into eating their vegetables, and responding with, quote, "That Harangun Tarth, he was a child who went missing from our empire and became lost in the Feywild. My gnome informant who was in the clinic at the time of their discussion overheard that, and the Greater Mother told me he's our eldest brother, reborn from her womb and renamed Adam by her. But someone sickeningly took Adam from her womb prematurely, so Big Brother's development is stunted. Adam needs our help to make him realize his purpose." End quote. Baal's head perks up, and he responds to Louisburg's earlier comment with skeptical frustration, saying, "That gnome in the clinic that night, he was supposedly trying to hurt that cleric, Thotham, in our fight. I've vented to you many times over the years that I hate it when people interfere with my fights. That gnome is your agent?" End quote. Louisburg scoffed and sat himself on the table, treating the matter as if it were nothing, saying, "I was killing two birds with one stone, helping you win a fight and helping agitate you enough so that you—" Louisburg was cut off by Paul's mocking laughter and insult. "You are completely and utterly batshit crazy. I am done here. You and I are not the same." End quote. But Louisburg wasn't finished. He forcefully crouches over Paul, their faces an inch apart as Louisburg spoke with a menacing tone, his voice low and serious. "The state of your bathroom says otherwise, Paul. It's too late for you. There's no going back. Your hands are red. The Greater Mother is coming with or without your support. I don't think you understand how fucked you are. No one is going to accept you blaming the desert's delirium for your actions. The Greater Mother didn't tell you to sleep with the elven slaves, sell the organs of our fallen siblings for profit, and keep their belongings for yourself. You speak of her contradiction, but you drawing the line at mass murder is little or no different." End quote. Baal's feathers ruffled out with anger as he pushed his face into Louisburg's forehead, his beak gritted with fury. "The elves consented," Baal hissed and continued. "And I don't like things going to waste. The organs were just going to rot anyway. Everyone in this room shared in that loot too, goddammit." Louisburg erupted in maniacal laughter, rising to his feet and prancing around the room like a madman. "Now look who's the crazy one!" he exclaimed, his eyes darting wild with excitement at the Aarakocra's audacity. "Go ahead, Baal, turn yourself in. Try to explain that some of the slaves aren't your victims, but just your caged friends with benefits, and that you're simply a misled whittle bird who's environmentally considerate about waste. See how far that gets you. I promise you, it isn't much, but it'll be worth the laugh." Baal's resolve wavered as Louisburg continued his tirade, clearly striking a weak spot when saying, "I perfectly understand now why Miss Sliverfell feared you. You delusional bird. Reading her diary entry hurt your feelings, didn't it, Baal? And then you tried to get rid of any evidence of it, which is what gave Akramon a leg up to screw us all over. No matter what you do, Baal, you are truly fucked." As Louisburg's words dug in sharply, Ball suddenly clasped his head in agony, as if battling a sudden onset searing migraine. But Louisburg was relentless in his pursuit, pressing his advantage. "You'd have no need for these unethical pleasures if you accepted the greater mother." He spat. "Haven't you realized there's only a few of us awakened ones committing these, oh, let's be nice and just call them, extra colorful sins? Wake the hell up, Ball. That isn't the greater mother's influence at all. That's just the you that finally found a convenient excuse and a defenseless outlet." Bahal swallowed hard, staring down at his feet, probably the first time truly reflecting on the extent of the dark path he's been trailing down into, and not so suddenly found himself lost in. His fists clench, but then release, as if finally accepting Louisburg's words as truth. Seeing this, Louisburg shifts his tone and demeanor, turning calm and measured again, as he spoke of the future. "Yes, people need to die for the greater mother to arrive and bring about a new era. War is an ugly thing," he said. "Unlike yourself, Baal, I'm not enjoying nor personally benefiting from any part of this bloodbath. It's just a necessary means to an end for me. I'm keeping my eyes forward on a future where none of this will have to happen again." Louisburg pauses to turn away from Ball and do a slow lap around the room while looking each and every officer in the eye while continuing to speak. "The greater mother cares not about material wealth, cares not about one's defined greatness in this broken society, cares not of one's gender, race, power, or past. She cares only of one's true potential. Potential to bring about a future where her chosen children can thrive and rid the world of impulsive status-driven vermin. Everything between now and then doesn't matter to her and doesn't matter to me." As Eryxian sees Louisburg about to approach himself soon, he breathes deep and keeps his eyes closed, putting on his best act to seem as if he is imagining Louisburg's words with deep honor. Louisburg stares at him a moment, and like with the other cops, passes on to the officer next to him while continuing the monologue. When safe, Eryxian casts a shrouded sneer, and as he rolls his eyes up in agitation, he notices a mouse and a certain goblin in the ceiling vent above the table. He looks relieved at first, maybe to not be alone, in case he gets caught, but then seems upset. Tawiti would reveal to Gribble later that she wasn't supposed to be helping with the tower, and Eryxian probably wasn't happy about two kids being the ones to listen to this disturbing mess, in what is probably the most dangerous room in all of Zombu right now. As Louisburg continues, he builds his tone slowly to a crescendo. "So, if those depraved activities are your thing, enjoy it while you can, boys. A culling is coming. Those potentially worthy of carrying and spreading the seeds of the greater mother's new race will either accept her and be cleansed, or you will end up like them." Louisburg intensely points towards the window facing the canal. This time, Ball's empty, sunken eyes followed his gaze. For a moment the room sat in silence, all men seeming to contemplate their respective fates as the sandstorm whistled and roared at its highest intensity of the evening. The canal, along with everything else outside, no longer visible as the eye of the storm hovered directly over Zombu. Then, with a disappointed shake of his head and a sigh remembering an irritation, Louisburg addressed Ball again. "I know you heard what that stupid oaf Blazonfoot said earlier about Akramon. What in the nine hells was the government's top face specialist doing here? And he conveniently leaves just as the greater mother is about to make her entrance? Ball, don't you see that Akramon clearly knew a lot more than he was letting on? He was toying with you, Ball. And now look at yourself. He's ruined you. You poor, poor thing." Louisburg paused to put a comforting hand on Ball, who was no longer resisting. Then, with a tone of malice, Louisburg continued. "And Blazonfoot is a child with too much time and money. He sees Zombu as his play castle, that he stuffs in the closet when bored. It's clear he has no idea what's coming. His mind is too simple. But I still wonder how their relationship came to be. Perhaps I need to get blood on my own hands to find out." Ball's exhausted posture droops low, his energy drained. The other officers in the room fare similar, their pallor sallow and sickly. Only Eryxian remains motionless, his fists clenched and his body taut like a wildcat, restraining himself from pouncing too soon. One of the officers, trying to offer some solace to Ball, extends an arm in a gesture of support. But this proves to be a fatal mistake. In an instant, Pahal is startled, being pulled out of his mind and back into the present. He jolts up at attention, clutches the officer's arm, yanking it downward with such force that the man's chin slams into the ledge of the table, crunching his neck up and backward before the officer collapses limply onto the floor. Some of the other officers recoil, their eyes wide with shock, while Eryxian merely casts a smug glance of contempt over his shoulder before returning his gaze to the storm outside. With a weary sigh, Louisburg interjects, "Okay, Paul, I'll concede that the Greater Mother's gift can occasionally stir some rage. But must you direct it towards our own? We have far too few of our kind that we can reason and communicate effectively with, particularly that of the police variety who can disseminate our message to our fellow awakened servants and employees of Zambieu." As Louisburg endlessly fucking speaks and fills the minds in the room with nothing but his poison, Paul seems broken, like a puppet with its strings cut. His eyes, filled with shame and surprise, move to avoid the officer's limp form on the ground, just like he does with all his other sins. Paul then feebly asks, When will the Greater Mother arrive?" Louisburg's response is swift, a smile playing on his lips as he reseats himself at the table. "Whenever we choose. The slaves finished digging out the ritual chamber last week. It's beautiful, and we have more than enough blood from over the years. We need just one more living sacrifice after Norik. Unfortunately, the caravan was compromised while delivering him back here," he says, his tone carrying a note of caution before continuing with, "But let us wait for hopefully more of our kind to awaken. We are not the only ones plotting, and I fear interference. If any threat to our plans is detected, we shall not risk it, and will commence the ritual at once. But if the outside canal is of any evidence, it will have to be very soon, regardless." Paul rises unsteadily to his feet and exits the meeting room rather solemnly. As the doors close behind the defeated Arakakra, Louisburg also rises and turns to thank the officers for their attendance. He then bends down to check the pulse of the cop on the floor and sighs relieved. Maybe our brother here can pull through after all. If the cleric accepts the offer to be doctor, see to it that this one remains safe through the night to see him tomorrow. As the officers settle in to ride out the approaching sandstorm, Louisburg encourages them to remain hopeful, to anticipate a brighter future for themselves. Just before leaving, Matthias Louisburg says his final note. "Those of you who get the privilege to learn the Greater Mother's name, congratulations. You are considered a whispered one. I hope to not be alone in that achievement. Sleep well, everyone. May her warm embrace find you tonight, or at least very soon." At about 2 a.m., the storm is at its tail end. We'll say Eryxian staked it out in the bathroom and helped Gribble with Tawiti, down and out the window, then having to apologize to the other officers for his constipation. The duo runs under the cover of night and wakes the party up, informing them of these dreadful details. It's obvious that Louisburg would be cued off the moment he notices his belongings missing. It's likely he's going to start the ritual very soon. The party needs to somehow find the entrance to this supposed underground slave and ritual chamber. You all also need to decide what you're going to do with the evidence between yourselves and the workers' media reporter, Gorham. Especially since no one aside from the party, Eryxian and Tawiti, know the full extent of the depravity going on here. But tomorrow will also be the first day of work you guys are required to do since you've arrived at this walled-in nightmare. You also wanted to talk to the guy with a Gatling gun, Pippet. So much to do, so little time. Our next session will pick up directly at the moment Gribble and Tawiti finished updating you. Thursday, Timber the 21st at 3 a.m. Your immediate next-door neighbors are being awfully rowdy at this hour for some reason. We'll have to wait and find out what that's about. Anyway, all of you are now at the final third of the prologue to this campaign. Congratulations on making it to level 2. Nice and early. You all earned it.